Thank you for allowing me to share my ongoing PhD project with you today. My name is Groitske Nijboer and I'm a PhD candidate at the University of Groningen in the Netherlands. I'm active in the field of early modern history. My project is about Counter-Reformation spiritual biographies and how these were gendered. The biographies I read were written in or translated into Dutch, French and English. They were produced in the region of northern France and the southern Netherlands. In the 17th century, this was a border region of the Catholic world. It was marked by mobility and transfer of peoples and texts, and by multi-confessionalism. It underwent Catholic renewal, but the region also witnessed intense debates about issues of spiritual authority, mediated access to God's presence, language of prayer, and practices of communion. These debates on spirituality and mystical theology played key roles in Quietist and Jansenist controversies. Historians have seen these debates as attacks on female spirituality. On the surface, female spiritual authority seems to have been limited in the Counter-Reformation. The Council of Trent had officially barred women from public religious roles, and women only figure in small numbers among Counter-Reformation saints. Yet women were very often the protagonists of Catholic biographies, and in some cases even their authors. I argue that spiritual biographies offer valuable insights into the relationship between discourses on mystical theology, spirituality, and gender on the one hand, and on how spirituality was lived out by Catholic women and men on the other hand. Spiritual biography is a diverse genre that serves different functions. One of their possible functions was to propagate for canonization. The genre also includes autobiographical diaries and death notices circulating as correspondence. What these types of texts all have in common is that they described authoritative life stories of heroic Catholics and posited them as evident markers of God's presence on earth. I researched how these biographies reflected, prescribed, and negotiated criteria on Catholic doctrine and praxis, how they taught Catholics to be spiritually perfect. In early modernity, biographers became interested in portraying what was called the inner sanctum of protagonists, how their relationship with God was experienced within their souls. Biographies also offered performative models. Readers could use these texts to imagine what a devout life looked like in practice. Biographies described how protagonists embodied their devotion, where they did this and with whom. I inquire how these models compare to one another. How did gender, social and marital status, community and cultural milieu impact the criteria? And how did these factors impact their receptions? Some biographers succeeded in establishing the authority of their protagonist, but others didn't. I compare biographies of nuns, laywomen, secular and regular clergy, and the laymen. Like the protagonists, the authors of these texts were also men and women, most of them clergymen and nuns, but like the protagonists, they had different vocations and backgrounds. So the scope of my project is very broad, but also carefully outlined. It helps me to reevaluate the relationship between Counter-Reformation spirituality and gender. Women as well as men negotiated their own and other people's roles to spread their spiritual teaching. By carefully historically contextualizing these journeys, I seek out the commonalities and divergencies in how they did this. Thank you very much for your attention, and please feel free to contact me if you have any questions or suggestions. I would be very grateful for them.